Do you see that? The eyes.
All right, Holtzman, now we're pretending you're messing with me.
No. That is unsettling.
Hey, Patty, can I get some illumination on this subject?
Yeah, I can put some light on that.
Oh, boy.
Where are these ghosts coming from?
You're taking this pretty boy back to the lab. Holtzman, yup. Power us up.
Okay. I'm gonna plug these things.
In here? Okay, Aaron, come here. It's acting like this.
Like, why am I operating the untested nuclear laser?
You have the longest arms. This is just a little bit of grounding so you don't die immediately.
You have done this before, right?
Ready. Aim. Fire! Oh, what?
Quiet on the set!
This is Michael Faulkner, and it is showtime at the July 12th, 2016 edition of the Weekly Podioplex, brought to you on the Chronocrypt Network. This week's birthdays include CeeLo Ward, Michelle Rodriguez, Cheryl Ladd, Tom Kenny, Colton Haynes, Matthew Fox, Lana Parrilla, Forrest Whitaker, Phoebe Cates, and crossing the streams on the same day, Harrison Ford and Patrick Stewart. Starting the box office report, Dory is still strong, but she could not stop the dogs. At number 10 is new release Sultan, debuting to $2.4 million. This stunning top 10 finish with only 283 theaters marks the largest Bollywood opening of 2016 and the top grossing Bollywood film overall this year. At number 9 is The Shallows, down 2 from 7th. At 8 is Independence Day Resurgence, down 3 from 5th. In 7th is the BFG, down 3 from 4th, and finishing out this week's spot on 5 is Central Intelligence, holding position from last week. The top 5 this week begin with The Purge Election Year, down 2 from 3rd with $12.4 million, added to a total of $58.8 million. In 4th place is new release Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, premiering to $16.6 million. The expectations were around $12 million for this R-rated comedy, so this is a win for Fox. While critics despised it with a 39% rating, audiences felt it was okay, offering a B cinema score from a nearly even split across genders and age demographics. In 3rd place is last week's winner, Finding Dory, adding $20.8 million to a total of $423 million. Losing the crown is not a sad note for this 4-week-old film, as it is now the highest grossing domestic release of 2016 and the second highest grossing animated release of all time, with only Shrek 2 standing in its way. Holding on to second this week is The Legend of Tarzan, getting a second win in its second week, with $21 million added to a total of $81.8 million. The drop from week to week was expected to be well above 50%, but the 46% drop in revenue is a reflection on the A- cinema score for a film that was overshadowed by Finding Dory. The big downside here is the massive $180 million budget, which is going to handicap this title on the Warner Brothers ledgers. In first this week is The Secret Life of Pets, debuting with $104.4 million. That beats Inside Out for the title of the largest opening for an original animated property. It's also the 6th animated film ever to open over $100 million, joining the ranks of Shrek 2, Toy Story 3, Minions, Shrek the Third, and Finding Dory. Audiences gave The Pets an A- cinema score, which pairs nicely with the 74% critical approval rating. Let's close out the box office report with a look at what was winning in years gone by. 5 years ago in 2011, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 took number 1 with $169.2 million, breaking a ton of records, including the highest midnight opening of all time, previously held by the Twilight Saga Eclipse, the highest midnight gross in IMAX, the highest single-day tally of all time, previously held by the Twilight Saga New Moon, the highest opening weekend for a 3D film, previously held by Alice in Wonderland, and the highest weekend debuts in July, in the summer, and of all time, all of which were previously held by The Dark Knight. Finally, it had the highest weekend debut of 2011. 10 years ago in 2006, Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest won the weekend for a second time with $62.3 million. 20 years ago in 1996, Independence Day was the winner for a second week with $35.2 million. 30 years ago in 1986, The Karate Kid Part 2 took the title for a final time with $6.7 million. And 40 years ago in 1976, The Outlaw Josie Wales took the box office crown for a second week with $3.2 million. The box office premieres for July 15th ain't afraid of no ghosts, starting with this week's headliner, Ghostbusters. An action comedy starring Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones.
You get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car.
You didn't disclose that the vehicle was going to be a hearse.
I'm sorry, my uncle owns a funeral home, not an Enterprise rent-a-car.
Hope you checked to see there wasn't a body in the back.
I don't really know.
You didn't check?
I mean, I was in a hurry. I checked to see if we had gas. That was more important.
So there is a body?
Let Holtzman check. She likes that type of stuff.
Yeah, I can think of 7 good uses of a cadaver today.
No, Dr. Frankenstein. We got to turn in the body if there's one in there.
All right.
Don't do that.
Following a ghost invasion of Manhattan, paranormal enthusiasts Aaron Gilbert and Abby Yates, nuclear engineer Jillian Holtzman, and subway worker Patty Tolan band together to stop the otherworldly threat. Ghostbusters is rated PG-13. The other wide release is The Infiltrator, a drama thriller starring Bryan Cranston, John Leguizamo, and Diane Kruger.
Kano says Don Chepe's $10 million is frozen, which is actually Pablo Escobar's money, and he doesn't give a rat's ass that our government did it. He wants his money, and it's not going to be over
You're not
until he
listening to
gets
me.
it.
There's a Senate investigation into Noriega. You're not getting money that went through Panama. Frozen is frozen. Accept it.
Mark, it's f***ing up our operation.
We need you to fix this for us.
How am I going to fix this? You want me to call Senator Kerry? Hey, John, could you drop your investigation that the president has sanctioned? Because my friend Bob's getting really upset. Reagan wants Noriega's ass. Are you listening to me?
Hey, you know what Alcaino said? That's not an answer that keeps you alive, my friend, okay?
Hey, what did he say that for? No, wait a second. Hold on. Did he threaten you?
No.
Did he put your neck in the noose?
Yeah, and he's squeezing.
No, he didn't. Roberto didn't say that. He wouldn't say that.
It's Escobar.
No, wait a second. Bob, are you in danger from Pablo Escobar if his money doesn't come through?
A U.S. Customs official uncovers a money laundering scheme involving Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar. The Infiltrator is rated R. There are also 4 titles on this week's limited slate, and you can find those in the show notes. Next up is a look at the home entertainment slate for the week of July 12th, and I'll kick things off with new releases on DVD and Blu-ray, and that list begins with Green Room, a horror thriller starring Anton Yelchin, Imogen Poots, and Patrick Stewart. A young punk rock band find themselves trapped in a secluded venue after stumbling upon a horrific act of violence. Anton Yelchin, a supremely talented actor taken way too soon, and I'm going to miss him. Green Room is rated R. The second title is the Divergent series, Allegiant, a science fiction action movie starring Shailene Woodley, Theo James, and Naomi Watts. Beatrice Pryor and Tobias Eaton venture into the world outside the fence and are taken into protective custody by a mysterious agency known as the Bureau of Genetic Welfare. The Divergent series Allegiant is rated PG-13. Swinging by new releases on digital video, that list begins with The Boss, a comedy starring Ghostbuster Melissa McCarthy, Peter Dinklage, and Kristen Bell. A titan of industry is sent to prison after she's caught for insider trading. When she emerges ready to rebrand herself as America's latest sweetheart, not everyone she screwed over is so quick to forgive and forget. The Boss is rated R. The second title is Hardcore Henry, a first-person action flick starring Shalta Copley, Danila Kozlowski, and Haley Bennett. Henry is a newly resurrected cyborg who must save his wife and creator, Estelle, from the clutches of a psychotic tyrant with telekinetic powers named Aiken. along with his army of mercenaries. Fighting alongside Henry is Jimmy, who is Henry's only hope to make it through the day alive. Hardcore Henry is rated R. And the third title is Outlaws and Angels, a Western starring Chad Michael Murray, Francesca Eastwood, and Ben Browder. For seasoned outlaw Henry and his gang of bandits, a high-stakes bank heist turns bloody when they kill a U.S. Marshal in the process. With one of the largest bounties in history of the American West on their heads, they make their way south and invade the home of a seemingly innocent and unsuspecting frontier family for refuge. As an unexpected game of cat and mouse ensues, this twisted tale leads to seduction, role reversal, and ultimately revenge. Outlaws and Angels is rated R.
How often can you say you've been changed? Really changed by a party?
Moving on to TV on DVD and Blu-ray, we start things there with iZombie, Season 2 from 2015, starring Rose McIver, Malcolm Goodwin, and Raul Coley. In this series, based on a DC Vertigo comic, a medical resident who becomes a zombie joins the medical examiner's office to gain access to the brains she must reluctantly eat to survive. But with every brain she consumes, she also inherits its memories and must now solve the victim's death with help from the medical examiner and a police detective. The other TV title this week is Slasher, Season 1 from 2016, starring Katie McGrath, Brandon J. McLaurin, and Steve Byers. 30 years ago, in the sleepy community of Waterbury, a killer known as the Executioner murdered Sarah Bennett's parents. Now Sarah and her husband Dylan have returned to the town, only to find herself the centerpiece in a series of horrifying murders centered around the 7 deadly sins. It seems the Executioner is back, but if Tom Winston, the original Executioner, is behind bars, who is the new person behind the mask? As the murders escalate, long-buried secrets are revealed, making everyone around Sarah a suspect or a potential victim. I'll wrap up the home entertainment slate with Blu-rays from the past, and this week, Universal Studios is re-releasing somewhere around 20 of their best-selling titles in a pop art cover collection. I'm not going to cover all 20 of those titles, don't worry, but in that collection are films like Apollo 13, the original Psycho, Animal House, Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley, King Kong, The Big Lebowski, Bridesmaids, Lucy, and one of my personal favorites, American Graffiti, a rather beautiful character drama from 1973 starring Richard Dreyfuss, Ron Howard, Cindy Williams, and Candy Clark. A summer night in 1962 with the radio as a backdrop becomes the focal point in the lives of 4 small-town California teenagers as they face decisions, both immediate and long-term, about the directions of their lives. Steve wants to break up with Laurie, his devoted high school sweetheart, and pursue new experiences away from home. Kurt is hesitant about going away to school and leaving the comfortable, familiar surroundings of his family and friends. John tries to maintain his too-cool-for-school image as a hip guy, but can't seem to shake a nagging awareness that life is somehow passing him by. And finally, there's Terry, the nerdy wannabe trying to fit in, but who still manages to screw up. By the next morning, their lives will be changed, some only temporarily, and some for a lifetime. American Graffiti is rated PG. Kick back and have a Twinkie and enjoy this brief break for About a Shameless podcast cross-promotion, but come right back because the weekly Podioplex will continue.
So you were doing what yesterday?
I was playing Oblivion for 12 hours straight.
That is the most awesome thing I've ever heard in my life.
I'm still working on it. I'm the obsessive-compulsive type that likes to explore every cave, every nook and cranny of every mountain, every city,
That's why they
every
put it there.
Back alley. Yes, I know.
You know what I like?
What?
Civilization and a bottle of wine. Whole day. That to me would be heaven. Because as I've said before, I can't play Civilization every day, but I could play it for a whole day.
If you had a bottle of wine.
If I had a bottle of wine.
Otherwise, would
just
you play
keep
it?
Not like to get drunk, but just to have a nice little,
It's like a good book.
Just, yes. Yeah. That's exactly what it is for me. And always think that I might play aggressively and then I never do.
Because the wine mellows you out.
Because the wine mellows me out. It's awesome. It's just a really great way to spend a day.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Angela.
And when you're not listening to this glorious podcast, we would love to have you listen to ours, the Anomaly Podcast.
That's ANOMALY podcast.com.
Welcome back. I have nothing to add this week for the quick flicks, so with that we come to the end of this week's edition of the Weekly Podioplex. If you want to discuss anything you heard on this week's edition, please take a moment to get in touch. You can surf on over to the brand new homepage at chronicrift.com and leave an audio message right there on the website using your microphone. Call us up on that shiny new voicemail line at 1-844-674-3453 or write to weeklypodioplex@gmail.com. Of course, you can still tweet us on Twitter at usernames chronic_rift and weeklypodioplex. Give the Chronic Rift a thumbs up on Stitcher Radio and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. You can also find the Weekly Podioplex and the Chronic Rift on Facebook and Google+. If you haven't done so already, please stop on by and see what the shows the Chronic Rift Network has to offer. There are the interview episodes of the Rift Regulars, the Spotlight interviews, Cyborgs, a Bionic podcast, the OSI Files podcast, the Batcave podcast, Dead Kitchen Radio, Generations Geek, presenting the transcription feature, the Dan and Travis Show, the Sci-Fi Diner podcast, and so much more. Check us out and find the culture in pop culture. If you're interested in more of my adventures, take a quick trip to my blog, Creative Criticality, where I'm watching every episode of Doctor Who for the first time from the very beginning of the franchise and reviewing those stories in the Timestamps Project. I just published the 4th Doctor's adventure with the Genesis of the Daleks, and the link to those reviews can be found in the show notes. If you decide to pick up any of this week's new releases, why not do it through our Amazon store? You get the newest entertainment at Amazon's low prices and high-quality service, and each purchase you make to that store supports the Chronic Rift Network. Your support keeps us on the air, and we appreciate your consideration. Look for the links to our best bets in the network store in our show notes, or click the Amazon box on the website. The Weekly Podioplex is a Lucky Shot production and is produced by John S. Drew. This is Michael Faulkner. Thanks for listening. Until next time, remember that nobody steps on a church in my town, and I'll see you at the theater.
That's a wrap.